Hi, so welcome back. Obviously, we're continuing with our theme of exploring what some of our current students have done in terms of their placement years, their study abroad, their experience year between second and third year. So today I've got Bea with me. Bea is a third year Geography and Natural Hazards student, and she completed a placement year. So Bea, do you want to introduce yourself and tell us about what you've done during your placement?
Hi, so I'm Bea. I'm a final year placement student. Well, I've done a placement last year. My placement was based at a company called TakeHome, and I was based in the geomatics sector. So my whole placement was based on GIS, which is something that I did at uni, and I decided that I wanted to kind of focus more on that for employment wise and for future career.
So in terms of your placement then, Bea, how did you go about finding it and getting your placement, making sure that you got something that helped you develop how you wanted to develop?
So getting my placement was a bit of a hassle. I had quite a lot of interviews, which I think a lot of people have. Wasn't successful in a lot of them. I then, out of nowhere, found someone who knew about this company. I looked up this company, applied for it, and they sent me, they got me an interview. Had the interview, didn't hear anything back. Was about to go back to fourth year, and then suddenly they were like, "Oh yeah, can you come work for us?" So I did. But yeah, that's just, you have to keep going with it, and you'll find something eventually, essentially.
So obviously, did you go with the view that you wanted a certain type of placement? You said about obviously GIS and things like that. So was it a certain type you were looking for?
Yeah, so I decided during my second year that GIS was a route I kind of wanted to go down, and a very employable side of geography. So that's kind of the route I went down, and all the interviews that I went to were GIS placement kind of jobs.
So going in on that, then obviously you've talked about, you've decided it on the basis of what you'd already studied at Coventry. What would you say helped you about your studies in terms of geography and natural hazards, your first year and your second year, with actually going on and completing your placement?
So obviously there's the GIS side of it. So I had a module in first year that had a little bit of GIS, and then I chose to do a optional module in second year for GIS. So I got a lot I learned how to use ArcGIS and stuff like that in order to be able to then use that in my placement year. So all those little niggly things about ArcGIS that I kind of learned through uni that I could then take onto my placement year and use that.
How would you say you expanded your skills when you were actually on placement? Because obviously it's a working environment, so it's a little bit different, isn't it? So how do you think that compared to actually what you'd already learned?
Well, I think the biggest thing that I really learned at my placement was confidence. I've come back from placement year so much more confident, so much more knowing what I want to do, which I think is a very good skill to have learned. Confidence in terms of talking to people. So on my placement, I was talking to a lot of different surveyors, having to communicate with people that I'd never met before in real life, just talking to them on the phone, or just picking up the phone randomly, and it built a lot of confidence, using a lot of Teams and stuff, because obviously lockdown. So yeah, that was, I think, the main thing that I really learned.
And obviously with that, coming back into final year, then looking back on it, how has that helped you? Is it you've said it's obviously given you more direction and more confidence, but has it helped you with the actual modules that you're studying as well, do you think?
Oh, 100%. I now don't open ArcGIS and automatically go, oh my gosh, what is this? Because I've been using it every day, I was using it every day for a year. It's something I'm very used to using now. I'm confident in trying to find different tools for different things, looking up on the internet, how to work out different stuff, and just doing things on my own a bit. I think is something that, yeah, it's really helpful.
So obviously GIS it's a new skill that you learned at uni. You haven't really learned it before. Some students have learned it at A-levels, but for you, I remember it, we had discussions, didn't we, and it was kind of completely new. So it was almost like learning to drive, wasn't it? Whereas now you feel like you've had your pink plates and you're kind of more confident. now.
Yeah, I think if I hadn't have done this placement, doing the GIS module, the optional module in final year that I took, I think it would have been so much harder for me. And yeah, it definitely helped a lot.
And your dissertation as well, don't forget your dissertation.
In fact, without my placement, I changed my dissertation basically because of my placement, because I wanted to go more into that field of working. So that's partly why I changed my dissertation. So it's been quite an important year of direction, I suppose.
So what would you say is the best aspect of the placement itself, in terms of looking back now and obviously looking forward towards, you know, having a career in the future?
I mean, confidence obviously that I built from it, but also, so at my placement I didn't just do GIS, they also allowed me the opportunity to go into the field and actually collect some of the data. So I did a day of that, which was really interesting. And they also gave me the opportunity to work with the CAD team. So I did a bit of CAD work, which I think CAD is pretty, you know, big. So I think in future terms, like employability, that will be really useful for me.
That sounds really, really interesting. And I know obviously from our kind of talks and discussions that you've got so much where you kind of, like you said, had that direction and you have more confidence. What would you say in terms of, obviously we've talked, I think, more professionally and a little bit on personal, but if you look back now and think about, okay, I've done this placement year, you know, would I do anything differently, or what was the best take home point from that?
Basically that it was a very good decision. That it's allowed me to kind of work out where I want to go. I've managed to get a job from it, which I think in terms of at the moment is pretty hard, so it's taken a lot of stress off this year. But take home message is basically go for it, and if you want to do a placement, you just got to keep going and like get one. You'll find one eventually.
And I think that's something that's really important for all of the geography degrees, is there's lots of things that are out there and that are relevant, and it's finding out the thing that's interesting for you. So for you, being particularly with the GIS and then more surveying and going back into your final year, I think it's been really useful. So thank you for coming and telling us about it today, and obviously telling us in terms of what your experience was, but also the great news that you've actually got a potential, or at least a job opportunity from there as well. So thank you very much. I don't know if you want to finish up or say anything at all.
Not particularly, just
all right then, so thank you very much,
no
and hopefully I will want to see how you get on in the future.